Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 27th council meeting. Adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions?
Madam Mayor, administration has no additions to the agenda.
Any additions from council? Could I have someone move it, please? Councillor Lambert, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
The minutes of the June 13th meeting. Deputy Mayor moves the minutes. All in favor? Carried.
Favor.
So I just handed you my report. Airport task force. I just wanted to inform the public because there's been a lot of misconception that council's just beautifying the airport and nobody uses it. So I just want to let the public know that some of the money that is used for the airport terminal is coming from a RADI grant, and that's the Regional Air Transportation Initiatives. And the other part is coming from operations. And this is a 2-year carryover, and we just are now getting everything together because of COVID. So it seems like we're putting money into the airport and nobody sees the benefit of it, but there is a huge benefit as the town of High Level is annexing the airport, and that airport has not been refreshed for about 20 years, maybe longer. Keith? So just FYI to the public. I attended summer caucus and very interesting program, the Clean Energy Program. And this is a program that makes households, they can apply to get their home energy efficient. And this includes new windows, new doors, furnaces, air conditioning, and numerous other things. And it's a way to finance efficient upgrades to your house. And the interesting thing is that repayment is made through your regular property tax bill. The community has to come up with a bylaw and other things, and then apply to the government, and they're allotted so much money to their community. And it was piloted in Rocky Mountain House, Devon, Edmonton, can't remember where else would they say. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I chose Rocky Mountain House because it's closest to us. And I put a package in there of their bylaws and how they started the program. So if this is a program that council deems good for our community, perhaps we will apply to become a member, or apply to have it. The other thing is the Climate Resilience Capacity Building Program. The government has put in $4.5 million. A municipality can apply for $80,000, and if you have an Indigenous partner, you can apply for $160,000. And you do a risk assessment, and you decide what they will fund the planning part of it. The RCMP was also on the agenda for the summer caucus. Nobody there wants to get rid of the RCMP. AUMA opposes a provincial police force, but they would like to see efficiencies in policing. One of the concerns for communities is right now the government owes $80 million in back pay to members of the RCMP, and they have yet to inform the province who is going to pay for it and how we're going to pay for it. the local government fiscal framework, which is going to be the new MSI. There was one thing on there, and it was AUMA voted not to support the allocation of infrastructure funding based on kilometers of road, because that was one of the push. And they said, no, that's not fair. I attended the Beaver First Nation commemoration. It was very moving. They have a beautiful, beautiful monument. The monument was entitled Coming Home, and it honors the elders who survived residential school, as well as those that never made it home. There's going to be an in-camera session. Today I attended, along with the CAO and Chief Schmidt, the inauguration of Chief Wilfred Hukanusa. There's an appeal in his council, and his council board, so now they have to wait till mid-July till that appeal runs through, so they won't be doing business until then. And that's my report. Questions? Okay, could I have someone move it, please? Councillor Dwyer, all in favor? Carried. Committees for council, Deputy Mayor.
On June 22nd, attended the same grade meeting as the mayor. And that's it.
Okay. Councillor Anderson.
I have no committees to,
Okay. Councillor Dwyer.
I also have no committees to report.
Councillor Jessamine is not here. Councillor Lambert.
On June 16th, I attended a high-level chamber meeting, and we accepted, I believe, 6 new board members, which is probably about 100% increase in 4 months. So we're looking forward to another meeting tomorrow to hopefully accept a few more, I believe, memberships. So hopefully then we can create the board, and then the president and vice president and secretary, treasurer, board members can all be decided and voted once. And forward to that. Excited to get the chamber back up and rolling. So
That's exciting.
yeah, now I have nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Welke.
No meetings to report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Could I have someone move the council committee reports, please? Councillor Lambert, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
Council action list, anybody? Could I have someone move it then? Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
Capital project report. Okay, could I have someone move the capital report, please? Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
And number 10.3 is the events listing. Is there anything that council sees that you'd like to address?
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes.
may interject, we have lots of volunteer spots left open for Canada Day on Friday, so council is interested, they can look through what's there.
How many of council's going to be there?
I don't know, don't know how far you get away from home.
I might be able to come and barbecue for a bit.
I will not be able to attend.
Okay, so
I'll talk to Terry when he gets back as well.
is he going to be here?
I believe they're back this week and
Okay.
planning on being gone again, but
I might be able to get comfort the opportunity day.
It's, we only have to be there from 10 to 3.
Okay. I'll take a look at the closer.
Yeah, whatever.
everyone's a break.
We know you're decorating. The events listing then?
I can move for information.
Councillor Dwyer, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
Under old business, the RFP for the procurement.
Madam Mayor, this was a rising report from the committee of the whole. If there are any questions, I can address them.
Is there any further questions from committee of whole?
I'll move the recommendation.
Deputy Mayor moves the procurement recommendation. All in favor? Carried.
Favor.
Mosquito control.
Madam Mayor, that's also a rise and report from the committee of the whole. And it's just a request for you to authorize us to investigate what we can do for next mosquito season.
Next, what?
Mosquito season.
What about the rest of this one?
Unfortunately, unless we go to fogging, which is quite invasive, there's not much you can do with the larvicide this time of year.
The larva isn't fogging, it's fogging is for the big ones, the hatched ones.
Yeah.
Can't you fog like the perimeter of the town?
The problem with fogging is you use a non-selective insecticide, which kills all insects, including dragonflies and damselflies. So the stuff that's actually out hunting mosquitoes right now.
I thought this was, there was this, Keith had listed one that fogging didn't kill all the,
No, the larvicide is a selective bacteria that
Yeah,
attaches.
but I thought this, I read here that this was recommended by the World Health Organization.
I think that's the other side.
Yeah.
No, it's the fogging. I'm reading it, I'm looking at it right now.
The Delta Guard, that's the chrysanthemum chemical.
It's used worldwide and has full recommendation by the World Health Organization. The city of Winnipeg allows homeowners to opt out. Oh yeah, it also,
Yeah, still not selected. Can we use larvicide this year? I mean, there's more larvae.
Possibly, I think considering the cost of application, $100,000 mark, I think would be a waste of money this late.
I thought the 100,000 was the aerial spray.
That's the way we would have to larvicide, because of the body of water around us, we can't walk through it. So you would have to aerial apply it over the large area of wetland around us.
But what about just the perimeter?
That is the perimeter. So our perimeter is 100 meters wide, just outside the tree line, it's all wet there. So that's everything west of town and everything over by Home Harbor.
But the mosquitoes only travel 300 meters.
Unless you get less wind.
Yes,
That was what I was gonna add, because I remember reading something about that mosquitoes stay within a certain perimeter when they're hatched. So I just don't understand why they do so far around, why can't we do inner areas of town? And the ditches, stuff like that, right? Like, I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to do around the area when we can do in town.
One of the more effective indoor mosquito controls is just putting a fan in your window, because mosquitoes are very easily blown by wind. It's hard for them to navigate in any conditions. So they will blow in from those other areas. So you could do the ditches in town in that, but again, we're getting to the point where we now have the natural predators hatching.
yes.
We also have the issue this year, we don't have a licensed applicator, it's an 80-hour course, and so I just don't think we can get up to speed. I would like to see it done just as much as everyone, but hopeful that we can have a cheaper method set up to do it from a truck or a quad for next year.
So I agree with you, but I would like this investigated right now and ready to go for next year. And not wait until next year to investigate it.
I think
And
that's what
then-
the motion is.
What?
That's what the motion is, isn't it? For the recommendation.
I'm gonna put a timeline on it. Yes,
In regards to the course that has to be taken, is there staff available to take it?
That's another question. So we have to have one person that's certified, and then under them, you can have your applicators and work under them. So that one person we have yet to look at. So the other option is to look at contracted. So we are, as part of the investigation, we'll look at what staff are available, who's capable of taking this course. It's very in-depth. I've actually worked on it before, 25 years ago or so, and it hasn't changed much. So we'll look at that course, we'll look at what it takes to get it, if we have staff available and contracted services within the area, and get some pricing and some application guidelines. Again, just taking the course doesn't necessarily make the staff member versed in the products and the application and all that. So we want to investigate through a contracted person as well as other municipalities. And we don't want to overreact to a quick thing right away. We want to make sure we do it right, and where we are applying and when we are applying, it is going to get the best benefit for our dollars. So it's a fairly complicated process or situation. I just want to make sure, well, we want to make sure we're doing it right, and we're not applying a bunch of expensive back to side or anything, or even fogging if that's an option. We want to make sure we're doing it right and that we're getting value for our money. It's a big learning curve.
So I guess like one of the things that we could start this year is an education program for residents. Like with communications, perhaps administration can come up with ways that residents can deal with their yards, starting with mowing their lawns and keeping it at a certain height, because that seems to be where mosquitoes like to hang out. And other places, like logs and stuff in their yards. So if we could do an education program on communications for people, that would be appreciated, I'm sure. And see how much it costs to start a dragonfly farm.
$13 for 4 larvae.
Is that what it is?
I looked it up on Amazon.
$13.
For 4 larvae, and it takes 3 years for the larvae to hatch into dragonflies.
How long do they live?
In the adult form, 4 to 6 weeks, in which time they eat between 100 and 200 mosquitoes a day.
So this is one of the things that they've done in the city. Maybe we could investigate, but I don't know.
Margaret?
And start some bathhouses. Yes.
The Lobstick Golf Course in Prince Albert National Park years ago used to import 5 million dragonflies a year. Or I think they stopped that like 25 years ago just due to the cost.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty big cost. I see they're out now.
There's lots of it at Bushy.
Yeah. All right, so somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Investigate the cost and effectiveness of spraying.
Yeah, we want to have something for council to put in the 2023 budget, or discuss at that time.
Okay. Yes.
Are we setting a deadline for something like separation?
2022 budget prior to October.
2023 budget.
I mean 2023 budget. Write that in your book.
It is.
Okay, so under new business, the mandatory vaccination policy.
Madam Mayor, this
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
sorry, was there a motion there?
Yes. And we didn't vote on it. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Just want to make sure my bandwidth is working.
Those in favor? Carried.
Favor.
The mandatory vaccination policy.
Madam Mayor, that was also discussed in the committee of the whole. If there's any questions, Mr. Carson's please answer them.
So this is a repeal of the policy
Yes, that is what we were.
for the public. Does somebody want to make that motion, please? Council, did you have a question?
Nope. I will,
Okay.
move for alternative 1.
Okay, Councillor Lambert, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
RFD for aerial imagery.
Madam Mayor, this is also rise a report from your committee of the whole. If there's any questions, Director Gavin, pleased to answer them.
Yeah, do drones require fuel?
Not that I know of, but it will be of a plane and aircraft that will be flying this one population.
So they don't use drones?
They do, it's the area that we're flying is a bit too large, so they are looking to get a plane for this in the next couple of weeks here.
Okay. Is there any further questions on this? Could I have a motion then?
I'll move the recommendation.
All in favor of the recommendation?
In favor.
Carried. Animal control.
Madam Mayor, this was also addressed to the Committee of the Whole, but it has turned into, to use the pun, a bit of a rabbit hole. The town currently has 2 animal control bylaws. One is the assorted animal bylaw, which essentially restricts livestock from the town of High Level, and the animal control bylaw, which predominantly focuses on dogs, but does discuss animals as a whole. One of the things in our research is we found that a lot of municipal bylaws are much broader than what the town does, and we'd also be looking at bringing all of our animal control regulations under one bylaw. So we put forward, we'll begin processing this and try to get something together for the fall. We're hoping the last meeting in August, and then council can do a first reading, and we'll put it into our public engagement sessions in the fall. But we did have a few questions for you. So administration has provided a list of animals that were garnered under other municipalities, and we just wanted to know if there's anything in here that you would prefer we not include as a allowable pet in the town of Halifax.
Well, I do not like the idea of zoning poultry into agricultural or industrial, especially during these times when people might want to be raising chickens and eggs. We allow dogs in town, so I don't know what the difference is with chickens. I have 4 barking dogs next to me. If you have 6 clucking hens, well, I guess that's... Yes?
Under the pot-bellied pigs, number 8 on page 67, under A, mini pigs or any breed of pigs whose adult weight is under 160 kilograms. Yeah, there's no way, like, a 330 or 40 pound pig, like, that will do more damage than any other animal.
Yeah.
Like, it would eat other animals, it would, if someone was
One
passed
lived
out,
next door to me. It never ate any animals.
probably didn't weigh 340 pounds.
Oh, yeah, it did.
It depends on the breed. I don't think most people realize that pigs themselves can get close to 1,000 pounds. So yes, anything mini is a matter of perspective.
But wild boar are gonna become a problem, or are a problem already, and this is how they start. You know, if there was someone passed out in an alley, pigs will eat anything. I don't, to me, a pot-bellied pig is something that weighs,
Yeah, like little guys.
I don't know, like 30
Yeah.
pounds.
Yeah, and from our research, a lot of what is sold as a mini pig or a teacup pig, they don't exist. They're piglets that have been weaned that tend to grow very, very rapidly once they get into a domestic environment and are fed regularly.
So can we address this, what I asked about, the zoning chickens into the industrial area?
If council wants to allow them in residential, one of the things.
Well, we do allow them in residential right now.
Yes, I'm just wanting to know if council would like to change that.
Council?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Councillor Welke?
Sorry, I think my, sorry, I have to leave my video off or my audio stops working. So Yeah, I'm kind of just struggling with this whole chickens thing. I did have a question regarding the permitting for them currently. It says that neighbor complaints or concerns would be considered when issuing a permit. What does that mean exactly? Does one complaint or concern mean the individual will not get a permit, or is there any like more specific definition on how their concerns will come into play when considering issuing a permit for someone?
It depends on the type of complaint as well as the number of complaints. So an allergen complaint tends to be a much, you need less of them than you would say a possible noise complaint. But with the ones we have had, we have only allowed 2 poultry permits since I've been here. All of the rest were refused because of neighbor concerns and complaints. The 2 that we had, one is no longer in existence. The coop burnt down one winter due to heat lamps. And the other one is outside the fence at the hospital, outside the seniors compound of the hospital, which I don't think was the purpose of putting it in, was to have it where it is located. So the other thing I'd like to propose as we write this is that if something is permitted, it's permitted. Right? We
Yes, I don't like
we
those
don't ask
caveats.
neighbors if you can have a puppy.
Exactly,
So we ask them if you can have a parrot.
exactly. Like barking dogs to me are worse than clucking chickens.
Could I make a suggestion that we remove sugar gliders? For the fact that they're such a complex wild,
Can we just finish this?
Are we still talking about chickens?
Yes.
I thought we agreed that we're gonna let people have chickens.
So council doesn't have a problem with leaving this in residential areas?
Okay, no.
Okay. Okay, now we can go on to sugar gliders.
Thank you. It's well documented that sugar gliders shouldn't be sold as pets, and in captivity is known to be very cruel. So I don't think we should condone it, so I don't think we should have it as an allowable
What
creature.
are sugar gliders?
They're super cute. I mean, they're these little tiny things that have like, they're little rodents that have like little wings, and they just glide everywhere.
Like
They're
flying
so
squirrels.
adorable.
Yeah.
But so are guinea pigs and we allow them.
Yeah, but guinea pigs, they're well more domesticated than sugar gliders.
They're also livestock in some countries.
Exactly.
Is there anything in here that people don't think should be allowed besides sugar gliders
And pigs.
and pigs? I know we had rabbits in there and the CEO had questioned me about that. I really think that probably was put in there because of the rabbit problems that they were having in the cities, where tame rabbits were getting away and breeding in the wild and overtaking churches.
We'll do some research on that. I'm not sure that our climate would be conducive to a domestic rabbit trying to live in the wild, or the number of prey animals that we have in this.
I feel that would sort itself out pretty fast.
They become feral after a while,
Well, then,
just like cats.
well, I was going to say, then they would be competing with our feral cat population.
But,
Yeah, we can check our climate issues there.
so no other, don't allow guinea fowl in here though. Take them
Oh, the game bird section?
out. Yeah. I don't think we should have game birds in town. We've got enough geese and ducks over at the retention.
Weren't we talking about quail though at one point?
Actually, that's become quite popular in some areas because quail are quite quiet, especially again, if you don't allow the male of the species, there is no crowing at all.
The guinea fowl are very noisy, very noisy. All right, is that all you needed, just for information?
No, that was the permitted animals, and I guess we also addressed the zoning issue.
Great.
Is council willing to have us investigate allowing breeding operations in the industrial area? Or
Breeding,
breeding. Animal breeding.
like dogs and cats.
Dogs, cats, you could have the game birds, you could have, there's lots of small scale breeding operations that could be, they're allowed in urban settings. We would recommend that they not be allowed west of the railroad tracks, but
I guess if someone wants to breed chickens and sell eggs, that would be good for us.
I mean, it's just another type of business diversity.
Mhm.
Okay.
I have a question, Madam Mayor,
Yes,
and I'm sorry, because my audio is kind of coming in and out, but I just had a question about how we were defining the permitting. Did we say that once a permit is issued, it's permanent, or were we going to look at the flexibility of that depending on if something was permitted and then a bunch of complaints came in?
well, I think we would deal with the complaints, just as we deal with people that have dogs that are barking all day and all night, or cats.
Like if somebody's, are we, I think, are we going to be talking about the dangerous animal thing in a bit here, or do I bring that up now?
The only dangerous animals that municipalities generally deal with are dogs. Most other dangerous, what we consider a dangerous species, is banned by the Fish and Wildlife.
They're banned. So how are dangerous dogs defined? Are they defined by an incident, or are they defined by a breed, or a combination of both?
I think they're defined by incident.
Yeah, there is a definition in the current animal control bylaw.
I think it was kind of vague though.
I don't think we've ever identified breeds.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, essentially, sorry, Councillor Wilkie, didn't mean, it basically has to be dangerous as defined by justice of the court. So,
oh, okay,
It could be a poodle.
yeah.
always dangerous.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I guess my only other comment would be, yeah, like just getting a few more specifics into what some of these definitions are right in the bylaw, like the like what would constitute turning down a permit. Maybe this one too with the dangerous animals, like a little more, like you said, by the justice. So that means basically then if there was an incident, that would define it. If it's by justice.
Yes.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
Can we just go back to the breeding for a second, and just the comment that was made about chickens, like, we're not talking about an intensive livestock operation where someone's setting up a hatchery, like that creates a whole other issue with smell and effluence and.
I believe a lot of that is governed under provincial statute on how those things, they're distanced from residential areas or other occupied businesses and that type of stuff. You know, most of those are out in the middle of nowhere. But we'll look into that. I mean, that wasn't sort of our intention. It was
Because by breeding, I'm thinking more like domestic pets and things like that.
yeah, pet animals.
Councillor Dwyer?
I think if we're going to be approving of the allowing of like a breeding business, I think we need to have caveats in there that's going to prevent like things like puppy mills and stuff like that, like just pure animal cruelty. So I think if we're going to go that route, I think we need to have some strong caveats in there.
Yeah, any animal control bylaw we put in place will have care and control of animals, so that's.
Any other questions?
All right, Madam Mayor, just a question on the off-property. Currently, cats and dogs are essentially the only thing that are allowed off-property. Generally supposedly controlled by the owner. There is, I noticed, I believe it was the City of Kingston, and that one allows pet owners to bring their other pets off-property for special events. So a pet show or something like that, which I thought is actually maybe not a bad event for community services look at, for people to come into the arena and show off their exotic pets or whatever. Again, care and control as well. So if that's not a problem, we'll write that in. Does the council wish to license anything but dogs? Does it wish to license dogs?
I wish we could license cats.
I was afraid somebody was going to say
You can.
They're like herding cats.
Madam Mayor.
Yes?
There's probably is a lot of precedent for licensing cats, is there not? How do other municipalities control wandering cats? Because that's a big complaint from other non-cat owners.
It's about 50-50 in the bylaws we go through whether they address cats or not. And I know it's been contentious in the past in a lot of municipalities, but especially some of the larger cities do require the licensing of cats.
Yeah. And that means like tagged and collared kind of thing.
Yes.
Tagged and
Yeah.
collared and kept in the house.
Actually,
Or
some,
on-
Yeah.
some municipalities also require dogs and cats to be chipped.
Hmm. Okay.
I don't think we want to address chipping and tagging at this point.
Okay.
We can't really control it, so.
And then the last question was, do we wish to change the limit on the type of animals, not species we have as type? The way the bylaw is written, you're only allowed 4 fish. It says any type of animal cannot exceed 4 of any type. So, we'll fix that. I think that was, because it was intended to refer to cats and dogs, not all animals. Is 4 sort of that number for the harder to contain animals?
Yes.
I think it should be 2.
I was gonna say, I think in lots of municipalities, the number's 3. Unless
Three is
you had a
quite
litter
common.
or something like that, but
Well, ours is 3 and 4.
No, it says 4 of any type.
Oh, I thought it was 4 on a condition, or it used to.
I'm sure the.
How about the permitting license just gets more expensive as the numbers go up?
Then people just don't buy licenses.
Exactly.
So, no, sorry, just to answer the question, prohibitions, section 11, no more than 4 domestic animals of each type shall be kept or harbored at one time on the land or premises occupied by their owners. Sub B, notwithstanding section 11, an owner may harbor or keep more than 4 domestic animals if that owner is to receive discretionary approval from the CAO. Please remove that clause.
From our animal loving CAO?
Okay, we'll just leave that alone.
Well, yeah, personally, I think 4 of 2 is too many, but
3 is the most common number I've read in any of these bylaws. I'm not sure where the line is drawn.
well, I don't know either, and as the deputy mayor says, then you just don't get a license for the other one.
But you don't ask for licenses for cats, so I mean, if cats are part of that, I mean,
Well, they are. Some people have 4 dogs and 3 cats.
yeah.
And 6 fish.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Which are hard to tag.
Can't imagine our peace officers going and counting fish.
All right. That gives us something to go on. Again, I'm sure this thing is going to be reread a number of times before this.
maybe we should send out a survey to the public on how many dogs one family should own. Yes,
I'm sure something like this will have an open house or public hearing
Oh,
before
yes.
it's passed, so
yeah.
there'll be an opportunity for it.
Yeah, and we'll look a little more into some of those more complex issues like breeding and some of the fossil animals. I know rabbits were contentious, and if you've ever been in an animal, you'll know why rabbits are contentious. But again, there's certain animals that don't survive well in our climate, so it's.
Madam Mayor?
Thank you.
I didn't know there was a difference between a domesticated rabbit and a wild one. I thought they had the same fur.
There's a whole range of species. Some of them are much hardier than others.
Cats are that problem as well, so many, what looks like domesticated rabbits.
Yes, Councillor Welke.
Any concerns from the public, we should just let them know that there would not be any potential changes or significant changes to any of these bylaws until this fall. We'll have some public engagement. Was that
Yes.
correct? Okay,
I believe
Thank
that
you.
was our instruction. So it's likely, I would say, by the time you run through that entire process, you're probably looking October, November before any changes to the bylaw.
okay, thank you.
So start knitting coats for your chickens. All right,
Just information, Madam
Yes.
Mayor, administrative direction.
capital project for audio visual.
Madam Mayor, that's also from your committee of the whole. Mr. Carstens will address that if there's any questions.
I'm just wondering why it went up so much. Has there been such a increase in the price of? I'm sorry, I wasn't at the meeting, so. Like 40,000 to me seems like quite an increase.
Madam Mayor, it was significantly pushed that way. Pricing has gone up all over the place, and we're continuing to monitor it. We will be taking it out for other people to quote, but at this point in time, we've seen some of the TVs, as an example, to go from around about $1,400-$1,500. They're now up. I've seen up to $3,000 for those particular TVs that have been advertised. It's all over the place. It depends on a day-to-day basis.
So is this just one quote then?
This is a single quote
Okay.
based on our design. However, we will be following the requirements to take this out for proper open
Okay.
quotations.
So can I ask why TVs?
That is the plan, to allow staff to have better vision of what's going on, as well as council, than the current installation. There'll be one mounted over there and one mounted over there.
And so what size are these TVs?
82-inch. They are big.
And is there going to be one there too?
We will maintain that. However, that's not always great, and we will be upgrading the projector.
Do staff need to see what's going on? Okay, just a question, like I just thought this was like a huge chunk.
It was
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Councillor Welch?
So, and also, maybe this would be directed to Charles. It would start to get much more expensive to project in a well-lit room versus having TVs then, right? Because I know a lot of projectors don't tend to perform well in lit settings.
The design decision was to have a laser-based projector, which would far outpower the current lighting in this room.
Okay.
And this one is just
Okay.
inside of the
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this off.
It died on cue.
That was not planned.
Could I have a motion then, please?
I can make that motion, Madam Mayor.
The motion being that it be adjusted from 70 to 150. So will it be coming back if there's other quotes?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
If you set the budget, we'll just go through the request for quote as we normally do and award the contract. If it's more than that, yes, it will be coming back.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Welke, you made it. All in favor? Opposed?
Favor.
3, 4. Okay, carried. What do you do? Oh, strategic plan. I had you checked off already. RFD for the draft strategic plan.
Madam Mayor, Director Gavin will address that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We received our draft final strategic plan last week on the 23rd of June. I did send one round of edits to the consultants, and just a few words and sentences that I felt were not very accurate, so I did ask them to change a few little things, update census information, that type of thing. So we did go through one round of edits, but there are a few other changes, most notably the numbers. So the year is not 2025, it should be 2026. So we are kind of overlapping into the next council term by 6 months with this plan, so that is to be changed throughout. There's also a little bit of wording on one of the pages, 97 of the package, so the third page of the plan, that just talks about the region that it's in. Within Mackenzie County region, we probably want to change that, maybe Mackenzie region instead of county. There is other reference to Lower Peace region, so just small changes I'm really thinking of. So if we did have a little bit of time, if there's any areas that are glaring that council would like to change, we can make sure that those edits get in, and then it would go to the senior management team for review and edits before going back to the consultants. And I would like to bring this back for the July 11th council meeting if it's ready.
So page 95.
Yeah.
The English teacher. So we're building solid foundations. Our 2010 and 2016 community sustainability plans furnishes us.
Okay.
And it just seemed like an awkward sentence like that.
Mm-hmm.
And provides us with, instead of providing.
Okay.
Page, what is it? Page 97, down at the bottom, a cross is spelled wrong.
Yes, it is.
And could we please put Little Red River Cremation in there, as they do use this as their shopping and medical as well? Page 99. Oh, sorry.
It's okay, I read it.
Page 99, the first sentence, took the time to meet and discuss meet is spread apart.
Yeah. That's,
Deputy Mayor, did you find any spelling mistakes?
I wasn't at the last session, so I didn't read this as thoroughly as you did.
So those are what I saw, Haley.
okay. Thank you.
Council, any of you? No? Okay.
So the goals and objectives were updated word for word for the work that we did on the 17th. I did cross-reference that to make sure that that was all the same, and it was. And they did switch them around in the order that I requested them to be in, because we talked about, even though they're not prioritised, it could be read that way. So we wanted to make sure that the objectives were in a certain order. So those were switched around, and then all of the images, bar one, I believe, are the towns. So we'll probably have to put a couple of photo credits on there as well. Oh, there's 2 images that don't belong to the town. So, yeah. And then the other part, if we're finished with the plan, is we have a draft implementation plan. So I'm just sharing that on my screen here, if you can see it on the TV. And it's essentially an Excel document which has like overall guidance. And this RACI is basically how we would set this up for us to be accountable to achieve our goals and objectives. So green later in the document would be something that's complete, yellow is ongoing, and red is not started. So there is a bit of an overview. This includes essentially the priorities that we've set with the goals and objectives on that sheet, and then the progress. This one is like the first goal, so then we would say when we're going to achieve each of these action items. And if you remember, during our 2 days, these were all the action items that we had all up along this wall here. So some of them in orange, CMR have developed themselves or done some recommendations as to when we could achieve them. all the ones in black are everything that we wrote up on the wall. So this is just a draft template that they've put together. We can edit this, and we're also looking at having an implementation session later this year, perhaps October, September, October, for staff, maybe council too, as to how we're going to map out when we're going to achieve all of these action items to achieve our goals and objectives over the next 4 years. So it's going to be a bit of work, but they've put this draft together for us, and then we can essentially assign these tasks to a member of staff with a timeline, or a department with a timeline, to be accountable for delivering it. So it's a bit messy because it's a number of tabs, but this is essentially what it looks like. So I didn't put this in the package because I didn't think it would print very well. And it's also draft, so we may want to swap things around a little bit, maybe change up some of the language, but they took all the work we did over those 2 days and then some of the other sessions too, and put it all into one spreadsheet.
Okay,
So is there any other questions?
questions, council? I can't ask any questions because I can't see.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the briefing note for the disaster recovery program.
Madam Mayor, would you mind making a motion to table that to July 11th? Just so we have something on record.
The
Strategic plan, sorry, if not the TLD.
okay, table it to July 11th. Someone want to make a motion? Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
The disaster recovery.
Madam Mayor, Director Phillips will address that. She has updated some of the numbers. And then I think we have the conversation that we had with Mr. Loners on how we proceed with this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have updated the opportunity costs for, as of last year, Council asked for an opportunity cost up to 2020, and I've added in our 2021 costs in there. So we are looking at an estimated cost from 2019 to 2021 of the fire and the expenses of $735,058, and that just includes the withdrawal of our investments that we took out in 2019, plus all of the expenses that we've carried over each year, and still have remaining $2.975 million outstanding in expenses that we're holding on to without payment from the government on DRP. To date, I still haven't received any email feedback, but I did notice that I did get a call from Government of Alberta. I'm not sure what phone number, but I will follow up with that call in the morning. And the direction from our consultant was to maybe not look at a formal letter going to ministers, but having a face-to-face meeting with the new ministers that are in place to voice what our process has been, what minuscule small outstanding amounts that we're sitting on that is keeping this project and these funds to us on hold for a couple years. CAO McCaskill and Mayor want to address the conversation with Michael, but
Yeah, we had a discussion with Michael, and he suggested that we have a face-to-face with Minister Nixon and with Minister MacGyver, without any bureaucracy in the room, just those two to explain our pain of trying to collect this money. Even to suggest that if we sign it, they'll give us our money is kind of a blackmail. So we're saying, you know what, give us our money and we'll quibble over this $200 and some thousand, but give us the other $2 million and some. But they're saying they're not gonna give us our money unless we sign off on this. What else did he say to you, or she?
She mentioned, that there was confusion on us signing off or approving the ineligible costs in the project as a whole, where the communication has been that a signature and approval is needed for the project as a whole to be paid out, to go against the advance that we did receive in 2019 and 2020. And I know that the communication with the caseworker has been that they do, it's ready to go, it's ready to pay. We just need to look at the ineligible costs and pretty much agree to them. So we have sent back an extensive, Director Schmidt sent back extensive explanations quoting the OFC guidelines, in their guidelines stating why there was amounts like standby in the fire because it was directly related to the fire. We had emergency responders here directly for the fire. So we still haven't heard back on those specifics that we have sent back, and the ineligible costs of, I believe it's $220,000 for the one project. So yes, we are still waiting. The deadline that the province did give us was by the end of June. So it was suggested with the consultant to make those meetings and have that as your forefront. That we still haven't received the funds, and it's the end of June, and this is the process that we've been waiting for. If we don't have to approve any of these funds, and they're just, it's a courtesy of them to give us these ineligible amounts and us to provide information, then we should have received the $2.3 million deposit a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I think it's just ridiculous that they don't pay what they have approved, and then we'll continue on the rest.
Mhm.
Realistically, what's the chance that we can get a one-on-one meeting with the ministers in a reasonable timeline?
Well, we're waiting.
Yeah, I'll find out more tomorrow, but Michael is working on that right now.
Okay. The opportunity cost, so I know you weren't here at the committee of whole, but I think that discussion and general consensus is council's at the point where we're prepared to file a claim against the province.
Yes, and I heard that. And this was Michael's suggestion, is that we keep that in our pocket, but we have this one last meeting with the minister.
As long as it happens in a realistic timeline.
Nothing happens in a realistic time.
No, but if it's gonna be November before we can have these face-to-face meetings, like that's.
Well, I'm hoping I was expecting right away.
Yeah.
Right away to me is the next day. So we can follow up with Michael.
I'll update council tomorrow on that, but I would say that if we haven't heard anything by July 11th, we will put this back on the agenda.
So this is just for information for council? Do you want to accept it as what? There's no motion here.
No, we just put it forward as a briefing note because, again, perhaps just defer it to the July 11th meeting. Let us work on it in the meeting.
Can administration please follow up on this and have us a meeting and table this to July 11th? All in favor? Carried.
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor, who was the member?
Me?
Oh, okay.
All right, the 5-year capital plan. I know I wasn't at the meeting, and I don't think this was at the meeting. Is there any way that we can table this to a committee of whole? Is July a committee of whole? Because I need to wrap my head around this.
Your next committee of the whole meeting is the middle of September.
So July 11th isn't
No.
Okay.
So part of this was trying to get ahead of some of our supply chain issues is what we're, but there is a lot of information there, I will admit, Madam Mayor, and as we proceeded, one of the things that Director Phillips wanted to do was ensure that council was aware of what type of financing needs are needed for our capital plan, which is contained within this document. But that is a fairly complex discussion because you're talking reserve amounts, how much the town should be putting into those reserve accounts that should draw it back out.
But there's nothing in this RFT that means it has to happen. It said within 2022.
Madam Mayor, there is a medical response unit that had been discussed at an earlier meeting. That's probably the only pressing issue that for council if they wanted to decide that.
So I guess that's part of the thing I'm trying to wrap my head around. Is a medical response unit basically an ambulance? Like, is that the direction this council wants to go, is ambulatory care now? Yes.
So we had this discussion a couple of months ago, at least my recollection is, and I agree with you that, is this a road that we want to go down? No, but if the province is looking at putting this service out for tender in a couple of years and a municipality is able to apply, I think this is sort of what we were hoping to have in place and say, look, we're already set up, we're experienced, we're ready to go. Do I think that we should be providing patient transport? No. The number of times that we've been put in that position up here is significant. Interesting in the news today that a 3-year-old child was transported in a fire truck in Calgary, I think on the weekend, and it makes national news, and we've probably been in that situation hundreds of times.
I don't think we've ever transported anyone, have we?
No, because we just don't have the capability. So when we respond with our rescue truck, we have no place to put a patient.
But they stay on site to administer that first response. And in Calgary, apparently, there was no ambulance available. And on recommendation of the doctor, they put this child, a 3-year-old child, in the vehicle and took them to the hospital. So this isn't unique to us, but.
I know it's not. But I'm just saying, like, should we be forced into this position? Where do we keep an ambulance? The next thing, we'll have to build a new fire hall.
Well, that'll be a discussion we'll be having in the 2023 budget for long-term, but it is in the town's in the 20-year capital plan. It's actually in the 10-year capital plan.
Well, it depends on whether our residents have any money left.
But the direct projects in this report are, as a result of one of the discussions we had with council in February, there was direction for us to investigate putting an ambulance in the fleet. So we've done that. The amount of times that we have been on scene in excess of 30 minutes with patients where we're doing actual treatment is significantly on the rise. Our firefighters coded people on the side of the road for 30 minutes waiting for an ambulance. We were on the floor of the Flamingo lobby for 45 minutes waiting for an ambulance just 3 weeks ago with an IV hanging while people walked in for breakfast. It is significantly on the rise.
So I get it, I know that, Rodney, but that's why I say, like, to wrap my head around all this on one day is like, I'm like, where are we gonna keep an ambulance? A 6-year-old ambulance, like, what is the cost of that? My mind goes back to those peace officer vehicles that we got that were supposed to be great and they weren't great, and then we had to buy new ones. And so, I mean, do we buy a 6-year-old ambulance if we're going this way, or do we buy a new one? Like this is the type of conversation that is big that we have to have, not just an RFD in the middle of a council meeting. My thoughts anyways. I don't know how the rest of council feels. Like, I hear you, we have all these things going, but what is the caseload that we really need? What are the stats? Like, I mean, this is a huge investment. Am I the only one that feels that way?
No, I feel like I do. I think we need more discussion on this before we move it through.
I know you want to get the 5-year capital, but if we don't get it right,
Well, Madam Mayor, a lot of this has come forward because of the changes that were made for this project, and also looking at our supply chain issues, which a couple of weeks I'm going to change that supply chain issues. But we are looking at some equipment having to order it now a couple of years in advance, especially some of the heavier equipment, just so that we can buy it in the year we need it. Which is unfortunate, because now you're not setting a capital plan in any given year. You're actually having to adopt a 2 to 3 year capital plan depending on the type of machinery.
well, and I'm looking at the $7 million that we are going to debenture, and what about the roads and the sewage lagoon and everything else?
They're in that $7 million plan.
I would really like to table this if we can.
I completely see where the line of thinking is going, just for the fact that it is getting much worse in terms of response times for EMS and things like that. I mean, I can speak from like professional experience that is in fact the case, and that the fire department is having to do more treatment than they're accustomed to. So while I agree that there should be some further discussion, I don't think we should be tabling this for very long. I think in this situation we need to be more proactive than reactive. So there is going to come a time, I don't think this problem is going to get any better. I think it's going to get worse. So it's a matter for us to be prepared for that, to expect more or at least have the ability for the fire department to do transport. Because there's going to come a time, and I mean, it clearly is the fact that they've already had, cardiac arrests and things like that, with prolonged EMS time. I mean, there's only so much that they can do on the side of the road. So I think we need to be proactive in getting this is our citizens we're talking about. So I mean, we need to be proactive in getting them to where they need to go.
I definitely agree, and I mean, I don't doubt the fire department one iota, but I'm just wondering, where is all this money going to come from? We can say, yes, our citizens need it, but why is our province pushing us this way? And why are the ambulances so late? That's the problem, not our response time.
Madam Mayor, the transport capability is definitely a part of what this would provide, but there's also where our firefighters are working. So in this type of situation, you can move somebody into a cool or a warmer environment. They often work in the middle of a parking lot with somebody who is unconscious or suffering from heat exhaustion or heat stroke. We've also had people who've been worked on in snowbanks.
Yeah,
the rescue vehicle itself has no capability of working inside.
I get all that, but is that the responsibility of the town?
Ultimately, I don't disagree with you, but it is unfortunately the reality when we're running a medical first response program.
Well, there you go. Maybe something has to be struck to balance.
That would be a council decision.
Yeah.
I think also to put it in a different perspective, aside from our citizens, this vehicle could also be used for firefighter rehabilitation. So that's going to be, currently, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but because it's been a while for me, but any major incident, we're relying on EMS to provide that rehabilitation. In their absence, if they're on a call, this vehicle would substitute for that, and also now currently be the primary rehabilitation, so we wouldn't be reliant on EMS.
That's correct.
So my mind goes to, okay, we got this ambulance, now we're going to start paying paramedics. Like, this is just all part and parcel of how things happen historically.
Madam Mayor, this administration has also been good at tearing down programs that are no longer necessarily recommending they be scaled back, if you look at our CPO program as well.
Mm-hmm. But we ramp them up, we spend the money, and then we scale them back. Yes?
My question is just, where do we draw the line between volunteer fire department and paid members on the department with paramedics and, the movie team, stuff like that?
Well, the movie team is a provincially funded program, so if that provincially funded program ends, we go back to council and have a discussion on where we go from there. Volunteerism from a perspective of fire services across Canada and even the United States, I mean, to be bluntly honest, volunteerism is on the decline. So we're having a tough time finding volunteers, and I know every other organization in this community is having the same trouble. When you take an organization like ours, it requires hundreds of hours of training every year and commitments, it's even more difficult. Do I see the town going down staffing roads at some point? At some point, probably. I can't give you a timeline. I can't give you, that could be 10 years from now, that could be 20 years from now. I'm not saying it's gonna happen next year, and we're certainly not proposing that. Just to give you an example, the town of Peace River is a town that's 3,000 people bigger than us. They're having exactly the same problem, and they pay their firefighters on call $30 an hour. There'd be up to between $18 and $30 an hour, depending on their qualifications, as a paid on-call firefighter when they're on call, and they have structure fire and they have 3 people show up. So they're having the exact same problem. So I don't think that the paying volunteers is the answer, but the whole provision of fire services needs to be examined by not just our municipalities, but municipalities across the country. It's getting harder and harder to do this with a volunteer base. That being said, Island's been very lucky, and we have a dedicated group of volunteers, even though we're a lot smaller than we were 5 years ago. We seem to do okay, but during the day, our full-time staffing that we have now carries 95% of the load. In terms of budget with regards to the vehicle, if I may address that, Madam Mayor. So as part of the review of the capital plan, our department's been working on this capital plan for about 2 months, ever since the discussion about the EMS program. And we redesigned our capital plan from the ground up. So we took out projects that weren't needed. As an example, if you know, it's in the report, but we removed $400,000 worth of breathing apparatus purchases that we don't need because of a $37,000 investment in a decontamination unit. On this particular ambulance we had in plan for the replacement of the 22-year-old rescue truck, brush truck that we have now. We took it from a $325,000 project down to a $185,000 project to fit the ambulance in within the same budget. So there's actually no budget impact from the 5-year capital plan that was presented to council last budget. This ambulance and brush truck have a 0 impact. In fact, it's dropped it by approximately $25,000. So we've done our homework on this project. It's not easy getting an ambulance. In fact, the ambulance that we just looked at, that we've identified, the 2015 ambulance, was sold on Friday. So we're now in the hunt again, working with our dealer to find one that fits our needs, but we will fit one within the same budget. The emergency vehicle market now is incredibly fluid. The other 2 projects that we have in this RFD are because of timelines. So the reason the brush truck, again, it's the pared down version, the went from $325,000 to $185,000. It takes well over a year to get a chassis in play, and they have trucks in the queue. So we're trying to get our name on one of those vehicles so we can have a delivery next year. In terms of the tender, which we're also asking to get approval to go ahead and make happen, that was not a 2023 plan, it was a 2024 plan. But our indications are from the dealer that by 2024, this project will go up by another $75,000. And with the problems that we had with tender 1 this year, we just spent $20,000 roughly fixing it. And we can't guarantee that it's going to hold together. Our plan is to replace it a year early, not only just save some potential money for the following budget, but also speed up the reliability and then have a credible backup for our fire service. Because in the last 3-4 years, we've been relying solely on $4 million.
So how can it be a credible backup if it's got a 3-foot crack in it?
Well, it's been repaired, but with the current use, we're going to continue to put stress on that vehicle. So if we put it in a backup role, it provides a water tanker for Public Works when they need it, and they don't use it every day, and still provides us a backup very similar to what we did with the our old fire department tanker we sent to Public Works. It lasted us the better part of 8 or 9 years before they had to kind of tear the tank off of it and reduce its capacity. So So instead of calling for $4 million, we go to the county call with our second truck, and we bill the county for that truck too. So I just wanted to bring across that there's been a lot of, I understand council's seen this today, or seen, like we're only discussing it today, but we have been significantly working on this project for a couple of months to make sure we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's, to make sure we're having as little impact as possible in terms of the long-term budget.
I get it, I read the report, it's a good report, I know you've done your work, but we went from investigating an ambulance to now buying an ambulance. And that's kind of where I guess I'm kind of taken aback, is okay, in that 4 months, we now are buying an ambulance, and I'm not prepared yet, because I'm still wondering where this thing is gonna be housed. You don't have any room in the fire hall.
Yeah, so we'll be storing a brush truck outside. That's what we'll be doing to make room for the ambulance inside.
So to add on to that, I'm just curious why we need 4 brush trucks. We have, well, there's the Dodge, if I'm correct. I don't know if that's still labeled a brush truck or not. There's the pump 2 replacement, which is technically considered, I would assume, as a brush truck. I think there's a brush, is it brush 3 or pump 2? Brush 2. I can't remember the names. And then on top of that, we have the truck that was bought from GM this year, I believe, plus then there's another donation. So I'm just wondering why there's so many of those. It's almost half a fleet.
So to correct that, so we won't have 4 brush trucks. So the Dodge is being turned into utility, and so the brush package is going to be removed. The brush package that we have on there is just like a very inexpensive, you know, it does, the hose reel's broken on it. There's a lot of things. It was just basically a farmer type style brush package we put in the back. So it's going to be put back into storage. It can be used for utility needs or whatever, but we won't be equipping it as a brush truck. So we'll still be at 3 brush trucks. So brush 1, which is the proposed replacement, brush 2, which is the new one that's coming from GM. That truck is still delayed. We're still waiting for delivery on that truck, so it's not in service yet. And then brush 3, the existing WUI truck, the WUI team truck. So those are the 3 brush trucks that we would have. So we've maintained 3 brush trucks for about 6 years now. Admittedly, you know, the last couple of seasons it's been so wet we haven't used it, but we also have to realize that even before the WUI team, we always at least maintain 2 brush trucks. But the 3rd one is committed to the WUI team, so it can be gone at any time. So that allows us to still maintain the 2. So that's the purpose of the 3rd one, is to always have 2 available. Now, granted, most of the time we have 3 because the WUI team isn't gone, but we have committed that brush truck for that project.
Which annoys me again, because when we got into the WUI program, the government was going to provide us with everything.
In 2016, that was the initial plan.
Yes. Now we're paying for, like, everything's being downloaded. Yes?
So again, I just go back to, I think, the direction that we gave the administration when we discussed this before. And the decision of council at the time was, you know, despite going down the slippery slope and this being a provincial responsibility, we were prepared to try this out for the citizens, looking ahead. And what sort of got me to vote in favor of that was the idea that when the provincial system comes up for bid in a couple of years, that maybe this would be a paper service type of a venture at that point, where we could have on staff paid paramedics. It would all be billed back to the government, and we would have a much better service for the community than we have today, which is why I was in favor, because I'm the biggest proponent to say this is a provincial responsibility, but it's an experiment. I'm impressed by the work that went into this. The question that's not answered here in my mind is the cost of the ambulance is one thing, the equipment to go inside it is something else. And I'm not sure whether we have equipment from other units that we can transition across. But as for the brush truck and the tender, I think administration's just being prudent by saying we want to have this approved now so that we can get it in the pipeline to get it ordered to save some costs. It's not coming out of this year's capital budget, and I agree with the reworking that the overall cost is actually going to go down on the 2 units. So I just think by delaying this, we're delaying the inevitable, and maybe we lose another used unit. And the last time Rainbow Light bought a new ambulance would have been back in like 2005, and it was like 300 grand by the time it was on the road. Like, a new ambulance is just cost prohibitive.
Robin?
I know the question was brought up about at where we draw the line. I don't think we'll reach a point prior to the tender for local ambulance services coming up. I mean, the fire department currently, as it stands, is pretty well equipped with PCPs, nurses, things like that, for medical first responders. So I don't think it's going to be a case of expanding the capabilities or the scope of practice of the fire department. But having said that, I think the opportunity to, if, you know, push comes to shove and you really need to get someone to a hospital, they have the capability to transport using the current scope of practice that they have. In terms of equipment, I would imagine that aside from the stretcher, I mean, life packs and expendables and things like that are essentially going to be the same as it currently stands, because you're still delivering patient care. This is just providing a means for transportation.
In terms of equipping the ambulance, we have 2 LifePak 50s, which are the heart monitors. Already, we transfer one from the hazmat truck into the ambulance unit, or I hate to call it an ambulance because it won't be a legal ambulance. But the medical first response unit, and then one of our older monitors will be put back into the hazmat truck and maintained. So there's zero impact on that. The actual loose supplies in the ambulance are just going to be used out of existing stock and through orders through the MFR program. They provide our medical supplies at no cost. So yeah, we have to purchase a stretcher that will come with the ambulance. There's some cost that's all fit into it.
I thought this medical response unit was gone now.
This current one is gone, but we're working with the dealer to source some others right now.
Any other questions, council?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
what do you all think the likelihood of the usage of this ambulance and the requirement for it to transfer patients, what would the likelihood of that going up just for the sheer fact that it is there? Like, is there a possibility that like EMS calls would be offloaded onto this service because it's sitting there at the site, and then the regular ambulance service wouldn't respond anyways if they knew that we were capable of? It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Like, not that that's a bad thing, but what do you guys think of that?
Yes.
I guess kind of what Councillor Lucky's saying. My concern is it going to have any, I think it's a great idea. I think it could be a benefit to town, but is it going to cause any conflict with our current operations with Aeromedical?
No. In fact, I had a meeting with Mr. Brunel, the owner of Aeromedical. We talked to him about the purchase of the first response unit, and he supported it. In terms of the issue with Councillor Welke, would it be used more because it's there? I think it's a possibility that, if your council remembers, in February we talked about the 10-point plan and the ambulance services committees that were developed by the province. Those reports should be coming out in July. I know one of the pilot projects that are being managed by Spruce Grove Fire Services, that is going to be announced, is the use of so Spruce Grove is an integrated fire service. They have fire and EMS, but they have a spare backup unit that they're going to be using for first response calls with their engine crew. So they have a 4-person engine crew on during the day. They'll take 2 people from that engine crew and respond to medical first response calls when their ambulances are not available in Spruce Grove when they're in the city. And if they had the ability to transport, they would contact AHS and transport and book on the air and then bill AHS. So that's a pilot program that I feel is something that, you know, if that is successful, that could be a move that they would make to other fire services that have similar capability, as long as they have appropriate staffing on
I think that kind of then gets back to what Boyd was saying, is that with this unit, then we are ensuring that we're prepped if the province moves in this direction to start, I guess, allowing municipalities to bill them for these other types of VMS services.
Can we rent a bay in your facility? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
But this isn't running competition with Aeromedical. This,
Well, nobody said it was.
no, but the service, as I understand it right now, AHS has these units that are just called to whatever and are not left in our community. Right? Which is why there's no ambulance service. It's not that Aeromedical doesn't have a service, it's the AHS. How many units does AHS have down in the region?
2 in Crete, 1 in Fort Vermilion, 1 in Rainbow Lake, and 1 in Zama, part-time.
So what happens to Gord's service to the town then, if we're scooping all his patients and taking them to the hospital?
So there's a very clear criteria when we can transport a patient. So we actually have to contact AHS and tell them this is what we're facing, and then they approve the response. Most of the time that we would be doing this, and this is already happening 4 to 5 times a week, is Aeromedical's units are timing out almost daily. So they're on a Coreflex shift. So when they start their duty day, after so many hours, they time out, and they have to get 8 hours of rest. So we did a medical first response call last week where we waited for the Crete unit over in the industrial area, and the Crete unit was just finishing up on a call and headed back to high level. So then or back to Crete, so they turned around, but both high level units were sitting in station, timed out. So the Crete unit had to turn around and come back into high level to the call. So that's happening 3 to 4 times a week, where the high levels units are, the day shift starts their day, they get busy, they call in the night shift ambulance. The night shift starts its duty day early and they time out. And so then we both ambulances timed out in the community, we have no coverage. So then when an ambulance call comes in, the next closest ambulance, which is usually Fort Vermilion, gets paged, and that's why we have that 45-minute wait for an ambulance. So that's happening several times a week now in terms of the timeouts. It's just a numbers game before that.
And that's if it's
That
not
continues. Yeah.
So, okay, this is an experiment, right?
It's whatever comes.
A pilot project, right? It's not, we're gonna get an ambulance and next year another one and so on and so forth. We're gonna see what happens. I will commit to that only if that's what I hear, and I want to see this program evaluated in 2 years, and I want to see stats and everything else.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
So I agree. Kind of just back to the previous discussion. So currently, if we're a first responder, we're sending out our fire department in probably a fire truck.
Correct.
And we have, sorry?
A rescue vehicle.
A rescue vehicle, which has then the personnel to help deal with the emergency, whatever that may be, but we just don't have the capability to transport patients, correct?
If Alberta Health Services allows us to.
So if we have this ambulance in our fleet and we're still first responding, do we send that unit right away, or do we send the rescue truck and then we only send the ambulance if AHS or Aeromedical actually can't respond in that capacity?
We would turn the ambulance unit into the primary responder for medical calls.
Okay, but that's where I would just want to be. I'm kind of all for this program, but that's where I kind of think that all of a sudden, because that unit is there, then AHS, and I'm not sure about Aeromedical, but then AHS may, make the decision that they don't have to go. So then does that increase our responsibility in this area that we're just kind of experimenting with?
So the difference would be is that we're not going to be a registered ambulance. So they can't just cancel an ambulance and let us transport, because then they're turning us into an ambulance. So-
Okay, so there would have to be kind of proof that they can't respond then.
And it would
Okay.
save our big fire trucks from going to these calls.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it.
You had a-
No, I was just, the fact that they wouldn't be considered an ambulance, this is in no means a competition with AHS or anything like that, like they would not be able to routinely transport.
I don't think anybody perceives it as competition. We just know how AHS
Oh,
operates.
absolutely.
Yeah, like, I'm not thinking of it as
No, nor did
competition.
I, but
Like if
I
they
think-
know that we have an ambulance, then
Yeah, then they'd be happy not to go. Not that we're competing, but it would be an opportunity for them not to respond. That's what I would want to be careful of.
Mayor, if you don't mind, just to clarify two things. If I understand correctly, we have a private ambulance system in this town, so they will respond. They're not
Mhm.
in a position not to go, because AHS does not supply ambulance services in the town. I don't know where medical does.
Okay.
The other one, just a question, if I may, Madam Mayor, for Director Schmidt. How many EMS calls does the fire department not respond to? Do you know offhand?
Right. We respond to approximately 25 to 30% of the EMS calls that are normally dispatched to EMS.
And what would the difference be between, why would the fire department be dispatched?
It's based on acuity. So, so there's 5 different codes of EMS calls, Alpha through Echo. There's Omegas, but those are transfers, so we don't take those into play. So we are only currently set up to respond to Deltas and Echoes, which are life-threatening calls or potentially life-threatening calls, and some Charlie calls, which are chest pains and that kind of thing that are potentially life-threatening. All other codes, the only time we're ever paged is if there's an ambulance delay over 15 minutes. So that's the only time we're paged otherwise. So, we have been called to Alpha and Bravo calls because of an EMS delay. That has occurred, but we don't get routinely paged to any Alphas, Bravos, or most Charlie calls. Unless it's a fire-specific call. So what we mean by fire-specific call is like motor vehicle collision, something involving carbon monoxide, hazardous materials, that kind of thing that would require fire presence. And in that case, we're not just responding with a medical crew, we're responding with an engine or something like that. So our everyday medical calls, which we're doing now, about 280 a year, are usually Deltas and Echoes and some what we call Charlie responses, which have actually been shut off through the pandemic, and they've just been sent into AHS to re-access.
So would this medical response unit go to motor vehicle accidents instead of the big fire trucks?
Now, we'll always send the rescue first because it has all the extrication equipment on it and everything we would need. We would, so traditionally we send, especially in the winter, we'll send additional units behind it, either a brush truck or sometimes our hazmat unit. We don't like to send the rescue and the hazmat at the same time because it's basically our other rescue equipped vehicle. So potentially this unit could be sent to MVC as a second out unit. We have had occasions where we have multiple victims and only one ambulance, so that provides a capability. So, that would be a decision made by the commander of the department at the time based on that. It is being sent out and labeled as a rescue vehicle, so if it does go out on the highway, it is billable under Alberta Transportation. So it's just listed as a rescue truck in our fleet. It's not listed as an ambulance. So it's billed out at the same rate as our heavy rescue, which is $640 an hour.
And the reason the reduction on the brush truck is because you're not going to use it as a
Medical
ambulance
response,
anymore?
yeah. Well, the intention was our brush truck, we never had a transport capability, we never had that in, but we did have heated cabinets to hold our medical gear because we were trying to reduce the usage of our heavy rescue and medical calls because we're, quite frankly, beating it up on the roads in town because it's a really heavy truck. And we're bouncing around the town in short runs, it's just not designed for that.
So just taking out that is
Well, it's,
$150,000.
no, this one was designed with custom cabinets and a whole bunch of other extras on it that we felt at the time was needed, nice to have, however you want to play it, so we grabbed our group together and said, our leadership group, and we said, let's take a really close look at this, and we looked at some other options of brush trucks and talked to 2 or 3 suppliers and brought the pricing down. Of saying, really, we boil it down to what do we need to have versus what would be nice to have, and what's the possibility of using those features on that truck, which is low, let's take it off. So that's what we buried it down to, something that's very similar that we have now, but actually more rugged, but less custom cabinetry around the side. So it's just basically a deck truck with cabinetry down the side and a skid package in the back.
Madam Mayor? if I may
Any
go,
more
sir.
questions? What?
I was just gonna suggest, if council was more comfortable with this, if you wanted to carve the discussion on the medical first response unit from the capital plan discussion, and we could come back on July 11th with a little more time to review the capital plan, but also maybe a more extensive list on what we may need for pre-orders into the future. Just deal with this issue by itself, not as part of the capital plan.
What does council think?
Well, I'm prepared to move the recommendation as it is, on the basis that really we're saving $30,000 on the current 5-year capital plan. We're not expending any additional money. We're moving the tender up 1 year within the plan. And as we hear from administration, the result of that is we're probably gonna save $75,000. I just think in the current used market that, you know, when these vehicles come up, when a suitable one's there, administration should have the ability to get it and not have to wait for another 3 weeks.
I'm in agreement now, because basically the questions that I had have been answered in terms of the ambulance or whatever, the emergency response unit or whatever is not going to be used as an ambulance and will not replace AHS or our medical services here in town. It'll just be an additional vehicle that has the ability to transport. That was my concern, that vehicle shows up at a collision or somebody falls over on the street and it's sitting there and it's okay, well now it's being used because Aero Medical won't respond because we've got ours sitting there. And that was my concern. So if that isn't the case, then I think it's probably being proactive to have this unit, and then once we have the unit, if things change down the road, we have, you know, we're already in place to go, so.
Josh?
I only have just 2 concerns. One of them being just we, you know, allot this money, $110,000, and you know, now we're saving 30,000, but are there going to be all of a sudden these costs that come up? Well, we already have this thing, so now we need to spend this additional money to equip it with more things. You know, we might be saving 30,000 now, but what is this going to cost us again in the future to add more things to it, or we're going to be required to have it up to par, or you know, replace some certain equipment or whatever. The other thing is too, are there any other municipalities that are looking in this direction, or are we the only one?
I didn't do any research into that.
The short answer is yes. I hesitate to name the municipalities because I don't know if they've brought them, like where their councils are sitting on those projects, but I know of at least 2 in Northwest Alberta who are looking at exactly the same project as we are. I just don't know where they are at the stage of their bringing it to their council, so I'd hate to preempt them.
My other question.
Well, sorry, in terms of the equipment,
Well, like I said, we have this $110,000 allotted to this ambulance, in budget, but are there going to be additional expenses on top of this that are going to come back to us in the fall, or that are going to come back to us next spring?
not that I anticipate. We have a budget and we'll fit within that budget.
I just, I don't want to see like us, have this thing and be like, oh, well, we already have this, so let's just, we have to get this other stuff now, right?
Yeah, no, this isn't an empire building project. This is to provide a service to the community and better provide the medical program that we're providing now. No intentions to expand it. If down the road we ever come to a position where we are asked to provide EMS services, that goes as a contract to HS and they cover the capital costs. That's just the way it works. So if
I
we
think
ever
what
got into
counts-
that role down the line, that'd be a totally different discussion.
I think what Councillor Lambert's getting at is, like, we buy a brush truck, but it's not the 100,000 we spend on the brush truck, it's everything else that goes with it.
Correct.
Or the fire truck, we have to buy everything that goes with it.
What, like I said, I
If
just
I
wanna make
may
sure that this,
paraphrase.
yes, exactly, I wanna make sure that this, we spend this money, this has what we need, or we already have what we need for this. There's not gonna be additional things we have to buy for it.
That's not the intention.
Okay.
Any other, Jan? Sorry, Councillor Welke?
I like Councillor Anderson. I think all my questions have been answered. I'm in favor of moving forward with I'm okay with alternative one.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor has made the motion. If there's no other questions or, I'll call the question. All in favor? Those opposed?
In favor.
Carried. So the correspondence for information, is there anything council wants to discuss out of that? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll move the information.
Councillor Dwyer, all in favor? Carried.
In favor.
Did you have any questions, Wayne?
Yeah, I do, actually. I just wanted to know, I just let you guys know, I was over at Fort Vermilion, and there's a monument over there on the river by the boat launch that's a time capsule from High Level and Fort Vermilion. And I noticed that it hasn't been repaired since the flood. You know, it's just two poles sit there, the actual sign is gone. So Mackenzie County hasn't done a thing to repair it, right? So I thought I'd bring that to your attention, so maybe we could get at least when the tourists go over, they see a High Level name on it. And I was also just wondering, something about the fines. I seen all this stuff in all these charges and stuff in the paper. And I was wondering, do the fines that the RCMP write come to our town?
No,
They don't?
no.
Okay.
So when the peace officers wrote a fine, that revenue came to the town.
Okay.
But we don't have that program anymore, so anything the RCMP, that goes to the province.
Okay. Well, I just seen they're awfully lenient with people. I mean, 180 charges dropped. That's ridiculous. I mean, because right now, there's a lot of people that are seniors in this town that they don't want to go for a walk at night right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that should be our foremost, concern. I mean, we want to present ourselves as a very safe, welcoming community, right?
Right.
And you guys were talking a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about tourism in the north. And I went over, I went for a drive around over the creek, and I thought to myself, why don't we aim for being the tourist, center for the north? So if there was somebody that would take on, tours, a museum tour over to Fort Vermilion Museum, over the log cabin tour, we could do Peace River, we could go up and see the Buffalo tour in Zama, but we could be the hub and help our hotels out by keeping the people coming back here at night, and yet we could show people the north,
So Wayne, we do have Mackenzie Frontier Tourism Association,
Yeah.
and they do promote the circle tour, just exactly what you said. We don't have a dedicated person doing that, but it would be a good industry proposal
Yeah.
for
Well,
somebody.
just a thought, because I know we're talking about,
Mhm.
tourism here, and, you guys are talking about, upgrading or doing all that work over there at the museum. And I mean, there's many things, we go to Leslie Shrine,
Mhm.
there's so many different things that we could have to offer, but they're not right in our town.
Right.
So it doesn't pull people to the High Level, but if we branched out for day trips, we could do wonderful.
Mhm.
Just a thought.
Yeah,
Anyway,
good
that's all.
ideas, good ideas,
Yeah.
and we do have the brochures that the town put out, and also that are available at the museum.
Yeah.
And also the one that Mackenzie Frontier Tourism does, and they've talked about all those places that you can visit.
Yeah.
But it would be great, why don't you apply to get a bus driver's job and do that?
Yeah, I got the license, right? Yeah, no, I just,
You
yeah.
could take the bus and take the seniors around, yes.
Yeah,
Madam Mayor, I believe if the RCMP write a Traffic Safety Act violation or a GLC violation within the town's corporate limits, that money does come to the town.
I think the government clawed that back as
Yeah,
part of
they
the
did.
municipal policing issue.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't seen any revenue.
I don't think they've given out many tickets within the town itself, so.
it's just that if we would've, say the average ticket would have been $200, we would've lost $56,000 of revenue.
Yeah, it's the province
those
that's
tickets.
losing it.
No, that's all. So I was just thinking, well, because we're always looking for money.
Yeah, we are. And Wayne, the time capsule that you were talking about, is it that big round bicentennial sign?
No, well, no, there's a sign, it's right over on by the boat launch, like there's a picnic there on the Peace River in Fort Vermilion,
Yeah.
you just go down along, and I've got a picture of it out in the car, but it's just 2 pieces of iron going into cement, basically, but it was framed, and at the top, it said what it was about, the time capsule, but it does have an iron plaque at the bottom. But, you know, it's a lot harder to read. You have to go up and look because it says, you know, time, you know, from Fort and high level. So, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know, I just think it's, you know, where high level's named on it, and they gave them $22 million for flood relief, I think they could put a sign up.
Yeah, somebody else asked me about that because they said that High Level gave that to them.
Yeah,
But I was trying to figure out where it would come
yeah,
from.
just right by the boat launch, where the little picnic areas there on that end of town, yeah.
We'll look in, yes, Haley,
I believe it was the Chamber of Commerce that gifted it to Fort Vermilion.
was
I
it?
know, I know the sign he's talking about.
Yeah.
I think it was the
Josh?
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, but it's a time capsule, and it's gonna be open in so many years, right? So, I mean, it's just.
Well, we'll take a look at it, thanks for
Well,
bringing
maybe
that.
even get Mackenzie, Ralph Mackenzie County, you know, they're not gonna listen to me.
Well, we will have a discussion with them.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that
thank
to
you.
our attention. All right, that ends our public portion. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening and have a great evening.
Yeah.